After the adoption of the Declaration of the Rights of Man, the National Assembly turned their attention to passing a constitution to codify the rights and implement a structure of government. Meanwhile, the people of France were still suffering from economic hardship and severe food shortages. In their misery, the people of France focused their discontent on King Louis and Marie Antoinette, who were fat from eating cake. They were living in Versailles, the palace built by Louis's grandfather, Louis XIV, the Sun King. On October 1st, 1789, there was a banquet at Versailles, where it was reported that someone had desecrated the tricolor flag that had become a symbol of the Revolution. The red and blue represented the city of Paris, and the white represented the House of Bourbon, the family name of King Louis. The radical newspaper L'Ami du Peuple, Friend of the People, reported that someone at the banquet had trampled on the flag as a response to the revolution. A mob formed of fishwives, strong women who worked in the fish market, and they got the idea to march to Versailles and force the king and queen to help them. Eventually, 7,000 people, mostly women, were marching the 20 kilometers to Versailles. When the crowd arrived at the palace, they shouted protests at the family trapped inside. Eventually, the mob broke in and decapitated the guards and put their heads on pikes. They captured Louis and Marie and forced them back to Paris in a carriage, where they were held prisoners of the National Assembly. At this point, the revolution slows down, and the National Assembly passes the Civil Constitution of the Clergy in 1790, which reforms the Catholic Church in France. In 1791, the Constitution was completed and adopted. It abolished the last remnants of the feudal system. Inspired by Montesquieu, it created a separation of powers in the government. The king was still the executive branch, while the National Assembly was the legislative branch, and the court system was the judicial branch upholding the Constitution. At this point, France had become a constitutional monarchy, similar to England, where the monarchy was limited by the Constitution and the democratic government. The National Assembly changed its name to the Legislative Assembly. At this point, many nobles left France, and they were called émigrés. Louis was feeling the pressure and tried to escape as well, with Marie and their children. They were caught in Varennes and returned to France and held prisoner. Louis had friends in other countries, his brother-in-law, Leopold II, the Holy Roman Emperor, and Frederick William II, the King of Prussia. The émigrés urged Austria and Prussia to invade France, and in response France declared war on them in 1792. Many of the officers of the French army had been noblemen who had left France because of the revolution, and this left the army disorganized. At first, the war went badly for France, and the armies of Austria and Prussia were close to entering Paris, but the French rallied to repel their invasion. With the king no longer in power, many groups aimed to fill the vacuum of leadership. The radical Jacobins wanted to abolish the monarchy and execute the king. The moderate Girondins wanted to maintain a constitutional monarchy. The sans-culottes, which means no fancy pants, were the peasants and laborers of France. In the elections of 1792, Les Jacobins dominated, and France entered the radical phase of the revolution.